Disclaimer: this content is only for mature audiences. Viewer discretion is advised. That night, something felt different between us. The air was heavy with unspoken thoughts, the kind that lingered just beneath the surface in a long marriage. After a quiet dinner and shared glances that said more than words ever could, I knew something was coming, but I didn't know just how much it would shift our world. We had been together for years, living the comfortable rhythm of husband and wife, doing our best in a world that often pulls people apart. But that evening, the look in his eyes wasn't just love, it was intention. My husband, Armin, had always been gentle, thoughtful, the kind who never crossed boundaries without asking. But that night, he wanted something more. We wanted something more. Maybe it was the silence, the way the candlelight danced in the room, or maybe it was just time. Time to let go of routine and explore what we had locked away for too long. I felt it in the way he touched my hand, how he didn't ask, just waited for me to nod, and I did. I let him take the lead. In that moment, it wasn't about control, it was about trust. Something that takes years to build but just one night to deepen in a way you never imagined. This is a story about that night, not just what happened between two lovers, but what it revealed about the strength, the emotion, and the honesty of a husband-wife relationship. Because when two people stop pretending everything is fine, and actually start sharing what they feel, that's when love gets real. And real love? It's not always gentle. Sometimes, it's bold. This isn't just a story about a couple in their bedroom. It's about how two people rediscover each other, even after years of being together. It's about shedding the masks we wear, even for the ones we love, and finding the freedom to say, "I trust you." If you've ever been in love, or questioned how much of yourself you're holding back, you might see a part of your own story in ours. We didn't need fancy vacations or perfect moments. We just needed honesty, and one unforgettable night to remind us of who we really are. But just as the mood began to shift and I felt the space between us melt away, something happened. A sudden knock on the door. A message on his phone, left unanswered. I saw the flicker of something in his eyes. Was it hesitation, or was it something else entirely? And just like that, the night took a turn I didn't expect. What started as surrender turned into a question neither of us were ready to answer. What do you think happened next? Would you ever let go and allow your partner to truly lead in a moment like this? Tell us in the comments below, and don't forget to vote in our poll. Have you ever shared your deepest emotional needs with your partner? Yes, not yet, planning to. Stay tuned for the next part of this story. It only gets deeper from here. Armin's eyes lingered on mine, but I could tell his thoughts had drifted. The phone kept buzzing, soft but persistent, like a distant echo breaking into our moment. I didn't ask who it was. I didn't want to break the fragile space we had just begun to explore. But somewhere deep inside, I started wondering. Had we waited too long to open this door? And now that we had, were we truly ready for what might come out? The knock from earlier, was it just a neighbor? Or was it something more? I watched him as he stood up slowly, walked to the window, and peeked through the curtain. His shoulders tensed for a brief second, then relaxed. Still, he said nothing. He just turned back toward me, his eyes softer now, as if asking me to trust him one more time. And I wanted to. I really did. But old fears have a way of showing up in new moments, don't they? We hadn't always been this distant. I remember when our love felt effortless, late-night talks, shared coffee cups, inside jokes that only made sense to us. But over time, things changed. Life got louder. Work deadlines, family visits, bills, and routines. Somewhere in the rush, we forgot how to be lovers. We were still partners, still loyal, still friends, but the fire? It dimmed quietly, without us even noticing. That night was supposed to change that. We made a promise to each other earlier in the week. No phones, no distractions, just us. We even laughed about it, calling it our little reset button. But now, with the phone still vibrating and tension hanging in the air, I couldn't help but ask myself, what if we're too late? Armin sat beside me again, closer this time. He gently tucked a strand of hair behind my ear and whispered something I wasn't ready for. Do you trust me tonight? It wasn't the question that scared me, it was the certainty in his voice. He wasn't unsure. He had made up his mind. But me? My heart beat faster, not from fear, but from everything that came with surrender. Before I could answer, the phone buzzed again. Louder this time. And I saw his face change. Just for a second. Like someone had pulled the curtain back on something he didn't want me to see. I watched him closely as he sat back down, the silence between us growing heavier by the second. That question, do you trust me tonight? Still echoed in my mind, but now it was tangled with too many other thoughts. His hand rested gently on my knee, warm and steady, but my eyes kept drifting to that phone. Why hadn't he turned it off like we promised? Why did that one message change his whole energy? And more importantly, who was it from? It wasn't about jealousy. It was about timing. We'd both come to this night hoping to reconnect, not just physically, but emotionally. We'd both admitted, just a few days ago, that things had started feeling distant. Like we were walking side by side, but not really looking at each other anymore. We talked about reigniting that passion, taking risks together again, and finally breaking the wall that routine had quietly built between us. So why did it suddenly feel like he was holding something back? I could feel my heartbeat in my throat, and not in the good way. He leaned closer and kissed my shoulder, slow and tender, but my body didn't relax the way it usually did. Instead, my mind started racing. A tiny voice whispered something I didn't want to hear. What if he's not fully here tonight? What if his heart is divided? And then there was me. Was I really ready to let go? To give him control in a moment where trust is everything? Because that's what tonight was about. Letting him take the lead, not just in the bedroom, but in our emotions, in our choices, in this fragile step toward reconnecting. But could I do that if I sensed he was distracted by something, or someone else? The room was quiet, except for the soft hum of the ceiling fan and the buzz of that unanswered message. I turned to him, trying to read his face. He smiled, reassuring, and said, "Don't worry about anything else. Just us, right now." But it was the way he said it that made me pause. Like he was trying to convince himself more than me. And then I remembered something. Earlier that week, I saw his expression change when he got a call he didn't answer. Said it was just work. But tonight wasn't supposed to be about work. Tonight was about us. And yet, here we were, hearts full of hope but still carrying old doubts. A thought crossed my mind. Should I ask him about the message, break the moment, and risk everything we tried to create? Or should I let it go for now, give him the benefit of the doubt, and see where this night could take us? Both options felt risky. But so did staying quiet. What would you do in a moment like this? Say something? Or trust and wait? Let me know in the comments below. What do you think the message was about? And more importantly, do you think he's being honest? The phone rang once, twice, and then it stopped. Armin didn't move. His eyes stayed locked on mine, but something behind them had shifted, like he'd just made a decision he wasn't sure he'd be able to explain. I wanted to ask him who it was, but I held my breath instead, afraid that whatever came next would change everything. But silence doesn't last long in moments like these. Just as he reached to finally power the phone off, a soft ping broke the stillness, a new message. This time, he couldn't ignore it. I saw the screen flash again, and before he could stop me, I leaned over and caught a glimpse of the name. It was a woman's name. Not someone I recognized. Not a colleague, not a family member. Just a first name with a heart emoji next to it. My chest tightened. I turned toward him, and for the first time that night, I didn't care about candles or soft music or whatever we had promised ourselves. I needed to know what was going on. Who is she, Armin? I asked, my voice calm, too calm, like it was holding back a storm. He looked at me, lips slightly parted, like he didn't expect me to see. Like he didn't plan on answering until tomorrow, or never. He didn't deny knowing her. He just stood up, walked a few steps away, and said, "It's not what you think." But isn't that what people always say when it is exactly what you think? I waited. I gave him space to explain, hoping this wasn't the end of the night we had imagined. He sighed, sat back down slowly, and said, "She's someone from before. From a long time ago. She reached out recently." I didn't think it meant anything. That's when the second twist hit. He pulled out a small envelope from the drawer beside the bed. "She didn't just message," he said quietly. "She sent this. It came this morning." I didn't want to open it. I didn't want her to interrupt what we're trying to rebuild. I stared at the envelope. Something about the way he said rebuild made it clear he was still fighting for us. But why hadn't he told me? Why wait until now? I didn't open it. Not yet. My hand hovered over it, unsure whether I even wanted to know what was inside. The night had already changed so much. And suddenly, I wasn't sure which path we were on anymore. The one toward healing, or the one that quietly leads away. And then, as if fate wasn't finished yet, the doorbell rang. At this hour? Armin and I exchanged one final glance. Not romantic. Not angry. Just stunned. Was it her? Or something else entirely? What do you think is in the envelope? Who's at the door this late? Drop your guesses in the comments. This story is far from over. The doorbell echoed again, louder this time, cutting through the thick silence in the room. Armin didn't move. He looked torn, like a man standing between two worlds. I stood up slowly, my heart pounding in my chest. Every step toward the door felt like I was walking through something I couldn't undo. I looked back at him once more before opening it, and in that moment, I saw the truth in his eyes. He was scared. Not of me, not of the woman messaging him, but of losing everything we had built. When I opened the door, a woman stood there. Mid-30s, calm, composed, but her eyes gave her away. She looked at me, not surprised, and said softly, "I'm sorry. I just needed to return something that belongs to Armin." She handed me another envelope. "I'm not here to cause problems. He'll understand." I took the envelope without a word. She didn't wait for permission to leave, she just turned around and walked away, disappearing into the night like a ghost from a forgotten past. I closed the door slowly and turned back to Armin, holding both envelopes in my hands. He sat on the edge of the bed, silent, waiting. I handed him the second envelope. "You should open it. Both of them. No more hiding." He nodded, took a deep breath, and carefully opened the first. Inside was a letter, long, handwritten, the kind you don't send without meaning it. He read quietly, his eyes moving fast, then slowing down. When he finished, he passed it to me. She was pregnant. Had been pregnant. Years ago. Before we met. And she never told him. The second envelope, tonight's delivery, was different. Inside was a photo. A boy, maybe 6 years old, with Armin's eyes. And a note. He asked about his father. I told him your name. That's all. The rest is your choice. I sat down beside him. My world didn't fall apart. It just paused, like the story had turned a sharp corner we never saw coming. The romantic tension, the silence, the hesitation, it all made sense now. Armin looked at me, not asking for forgiveness. Just honesty. Can we still have our night? He asked. And I said, yes. But tomorrow, we call her back. What would you do if your partner kept a past this big hidden? Could you move forward, or would this change everything? Tell me in the comments, because this story, just like life, is full of unexpected turns. We sat there for a while, quietly, letting everything sink in. The photo of the boy rested between us like a new truth neither of us had asked for but could no longer ignore. Armin's eyes were fixed on it, but I knew his thoughts were with me. Not because he wasn't affected, he was. But because he was afraid this would be the end of us. I touched his hand, not to comfort, but to connect. You should meet him, I said softly. He deserves that. And you do too. The words surprised me, even as they left my mouth. But they were true. What happened before us wasn't a betrayal. It was a part of his life he didn't expect to return, but it had. And now, it was part of ours. The rest of the night wasn't about romance. It wasn't about candles or closeness. It was about understanding. We talked, truly talked, about everything. About the boy, about the woman at the door, about the space we had let grow between us even before any of this happened. We realized we had both been holding back, not just physically, but emotionally. The next morning, we made the call together. She answered, calm and grateful. We agreed to meet, to talk things through, to understand what the future might look like, with respect, with honesty, and with boundaries. Armin looked at me afterward with tears in his eyes. Thank you for not walking away. I smiled, tired but hopeful. We made a vow. That doesn't mean we don't fall, it means we choose to stand back up, together. Love isn't always flowers and passion. Sometimes, it's sitting with someone through a storm and choosing not to leave, even when you could. It's choosing them, again and again. If this story made you feel something, share it in the comments. Would you have reacted the same way? Could you move forward knowing your partner had a past they never planned to share? And if you'd want a sequel to this story, maybe about the first time Armin meets his son, or how this changes their marriage forever, let us know below.